So once again, welcome everybody to Matt Seaman's presentation about adaptive service organizations. And Matt will tell us about why human relationship will be the differentiator in the future. Matt, thank you. Go ahead.
Great. Yeah, and so this is still, I'd say, an emerging body of work. One of the things that the consortium really focuses on is emerging trends, emerging things we're seeing across our members, and then taking those ideas and continuing to refine them and turn them into operational models. We're most known for KCS, knowledge-centered service. More people know what that is than know who the consortium is, but we take ideas and the membership iterates on them until they become operational models. Like I said, we're the Consortium for Service Innovation. We kind of call ourselves a strategic think tank pursuing improvements in engagement, whether it's engagement between a company and the customer or even within a company. Our absolute foundation is in support services, so technical support, IT service management, organizations like that. But we're seeing more and more human resources organizations, software development organizations, sales organizations start to embrace a lot of the working practices of support, since knowledge is becoming the currency within a company. It's hard to power artificial intelligence engines if you don't have something to train the artificial intelligence engine with. So knowledge is becoming much more of a currency within a company. We are made up of 67 member companies. This is a selection of those companies. I think one of the nice things about the consortium is we're a small staff on the organization. It really is the member companies that do all the work. So we often say it takes 3 discussions before something starts to iterate. And it's all the member companies that do all the work. They're the ones that take the ideas, start to test them, come back, present what they've tested. Another member picks up and takes it to the next step. So it's really a kind of fantastic model. And even though we have companies that are competitors in the room because they're service people and focused on support, they openly share. And we're definitely an organization that is about sharing. So just briefly, because these are some of the trends that we're hearing about across our members, and these are feeding into some of what I will talk about today. So I don't think you can open a article on support services or technology without reading about AI and the advancements in AI, the chaos with the executive team at OpenAI that was taking place. So what we're focusing on with our members is really this idea of purpose-driven automation. Having somebody say we need to be using AI is not very helpful. What are we trying to accomplish? So really, what is the purpose behind the AI? Knowledge management across the enterprise, seeing an expansion of how we use knowledge management practices in all aspects of the business. Oracle did a really interesting presentation a couple weeks ago on how they're starting to do KCS in their sales organization to capture what the sales teams are doing when they go out on site, what's working, what's not working. So we're seeing an expansion of KCS practices into all aspects of a business. This idea that support is truly end-to-end, we kind of call it getting sassy. So, support as a service and thinking about the end-to-end relationship that we have to have with customers. It's no longer we have a dedicated support team that kind of lives in a bubble. When we're moving forward now, it really is about everything from starting to develop a product or a service to the end of life. And how do we support that? And how do we bring in other parts of the company to be a part of that support? Everybody in the company should be responsible for supporting the products and services that the company sells. Management practices are stagnant. That definitely is a theme that you'll be able to see a little bit as I talk. And this idea that the customer and employee relationships will be the differentiator in the future. And we're seeing that customer and employees are getting closer and closer in their relationships. And this is what will differentiate us in the future. So that definitely is a big part of what we're starting to poke at and talk about. So a little bit of, I'd say, background or base models that help us think about where we're going. This is a definition of service excellence that consortium members came up with and have been using now for many years. It's really about how do we maximize the value and success that customers realize with the products or services that we sell. And in order to do that, we have to make using our products and services very easy and seamless in the context of use. So we don't want to have our customers stopping the job they're being paid to do to try and go figure out, now what do I do because I've hit a problem? We would like to have all those things integrated and thinking about the entire ecosystem that our customers play in and how do we improve that entire ecosystem. And we're big believers that support and services organizations have a much bigger role to play in defining the entire customer experience from the start with marketing through the end of life of a product or a service. Service organizations talk to more customers. They know the real problems. They know what jobs customers are actually trying to accomplish. How do we leverage that across the entire experience a customer has with us? And when we think about value, one of the other things we like to say is that we can define what creates value for our company, but we can't impose value on our customers. Value can only be recognized by the person receiving something. If I'm delivering something to you, I cannot tell you whether you've received value from what I've given to you. You can only tell me if you've received value. So we can't impose our values on our customers. We really need to understand what is the value our customers are getting from their perspective. As we've thought about what are the things we can do to deliver value or to try and make it so our customers see more value in the work that we're doing as kind of the company, we have what we call the value stack. At the very base is break fix. If you can't fix a product or a service and that just doesn't work, you really can't move up and deliver more value to your customers. You have to be really good at break fix. If we're good at break fix, then we can start to be a bit more predictive and preventative. We can make sure we're understanding the problems that our customers might face before our customers face them and fixing things before our customers face them. Then we move into making our customers more successful and more productive, not just in using our product, but we're making them more successful and more productive. And finally, at the top would be, as a company, how do we make our customers successful? So companies buy a product or a service from somebody, not because they just want to use it, but because they think that product or service is going to make them more successful in working with their customers. How can we, as the vendor, really help them deliver more value to their customers? But in order to do this, we have to have a higher level of trust. If we have no trust with somebody, they're not going to open up to giving us access to the information that we need to be predictive or preventative. They're never going to allow us to help understand how do we make them more productive or more successful in their business if we have a low level of trust. So our trust level between our company and our customers has to get higher and higher to deliver more value. We have to have more business acumen. So in order to understand how we can make our customers more successful or how we can help their customers, we would have to know more about the business of what our customers are actually trying to deliver. It's not enough to just know how they're using our product or our service. We have to know what is the end goal, what is the business they're in. And we have examples of member companies who design their services and hire people based on understanding the business they're selling into. Whether it's accounting software, I can teach you how to use our accounting software. I can't teach you how to be an accountant for a small hotel chain in Germany. I can hire somebody who knows that, though, and then teach them how to use my software. So what is that business acumen we need? The co-creation factor, if we want to move up the values stack, we have to be building services and products that are fit to the job our customers are trying to do. So co-creating our services and co-creating our products with our customers helps us do that. We see, and still today see, a lot of examples of, on paper, people are creating amazing services, amazing automations on their website, and the customers just don't use it because it really isn't fit for what the customer is trying to solve. So how do we do more co-creation with our customers? And finally, the know me factor. We have to know each other as people. We have to know each other as companies. So we really have to get much more in tune with knowing each other and building stronger relationships in order to move up the value stack. As we think about value, value is a lot of times based on expectations, and expectations are always changing and they're always growing. If we deliver something that is great today, in 2 years, people are going to aren't going to look at what we did today and say, boy, that is exactly what I want. Our expectations are wavy, but they're always growing. And we like to say things that we do that are above your expectation are adding value to the system, and we're exceeding your expectations. But if we don't meet your expectations, we're eroding value, and value starts to erode in the relationship we have. And these expectations are based on our capability to deliver what our customers are expecting from us, the effort it takes for our customers to get to that capability, and the experience they have in getting to that capability. Forrester has done quite a bit of research into customer experience, and this is pulled a little bit from some of the work that Forrester does. So if you Google Forrester's customer experience models, you'll get a lot of stuff that kind of explains and deep dives into those three things. So when a customer hits an issue that takes them away from doing the job that they're hired to do, we call it now a value erosion curve. So if I'm using your product or your service and I hit a problem that I need to solve before I can continue doing the job I was hired to do, I go through a series of things to try and solve that. And that may start with automation. Then I might go to self-service, or I might check with people that are sitting around me. I may try chat. I'm definitely going to go Google. I'm going to maybe see some videos depending on what I'm trying to do. And the absolute last thing that anybody wants to do is open a case or call the vendor of the product. There's lots of research out there about how people just do not want to have to call and talk to the vendor that's delivering the product or the service. And with the newer generations, that's getting even more distinct. With in the last Gartner State of the Business, right, they talked about how the latest generation prefers to get support through social channels like WhatsApp or text messages and things like that, which is very uncontrolled. And who knows what they're actually getting when they're just out there in the social platform trying to get support on. And this is not just support on like their, home electronics. This is any support. It applies across the industry. So we talk about this value of erosion because it takes more time. And the more time that I spend before I get to the channel that best solves my problem, I see less and less value in the product and service because now I'm not doing the job I was hired to do. And what we want to do is move getting a solution to our customer as close as we can to the point an issue occurs. And if we can get super good at being preventative and predictive, maybe we can even move above the value curve by fixing things before the customer knows about it. So this is kind of a base model we use to look at what are the things we can do to move up that curve. And when we think about knowledge management, as we're capturing things, new issues come in, new issues have to be done through an interaction with the vendor. Capturing that so then we can do automation and self-service helps us move people up the value erosion curve. So this is a model that we still use. We've been using it for years to kind of think about what are the things we can do to get closer to the issue and minimize the erosion in value that our customers are seeing in our products and services. So to shift gears a little bit, we've been on this journey in support services, IT service management for 35, 40 years, where, we really started to focus in on the reactive break fix phone support, making it so we didn't have to send people on site to fix everything. And then in the mid 90s, self-service with the rise of the internet, right? In the mid 90s, we started to see knowledge articles being created, some steps and tutorials online, and that has continued to explode, right? And, through the late 90s, 2000s, that became a main channel for delivering. We started to see chatbots, automation. We have lots of examples of companies that are very predictive, very preventative. NetApp, who is one of our members, presented about, disk failures, and they can predict when disks are going to fail, and they can be very proactive about sending out new disks when they see disk arrays starting to fail. All of these things. So we've been on this journey of change, and support organizations are, I would say, fairly good. I wouldn't say we're great, but fairly good at changing with the changing environment, leveraging new technologies, but it's been a fairly steady path. And then we hit March of 2020. And there was a very disruptive moment that nobody could predict. And when we started to talk to member companies about what happened to them, it was, everybody had plans with, well, if we have, some sort of a disaster in one of our centers because of flooding or weather, we have backup systems. Nobody had backup systems or a plan for saying that within a week, we went to a completely distributed workforce. Everybody had to work from home. We couldn't, really see each other. We had to hire people that we never got to meet in person. Very disruptive event. And in that disruptive event, there was this potential for drastic interruption in our services and support organizations really falling apart. But we saw almost the exact opposite, where within weeks, service organizations were adapting to this new model. They were reporting higher levels of efficiency. They really overnight adapted. We had Athena Healthcare, who's a healthcare company in the US, present on how, they had a lot of their support team in India. And when they all had to go work from home, they didn't have the infrastructure in their homes to actually do support remotely. So within a week, they had shipped new routers and all the equipment to all the different people that needed it to be able to do support in their house. And within 3 weeks, they were back up and running like there was no disruption. So service organizations adapted overnight. So we started to look at why were service organizations so capable of adapting to such a dramatic impacting external influence that nobody really could predict. And we started poking at this idea of complex adaptive systems from systems engineering. And we really feel that this model fits as a way to think about and look at service organizations. So a complex adaptive system is really something made up of all kinds of independent elements that when they interact, it leads to emergent outcomes. And the system is able to evolve based on a changing environment. So it's not static, it's always changing, it's always moving, and it's capable of taking new inputs, adapting to those inputs, and continuing to move forward. And there's no centralized control mechanism. So there isn't one person or one thing that's saying in every instance, I know exactly what to do, and I can tell you exactly what to do. So there's no centralized control mechanism to how we manage in these very emergent, complex, changing environments. It kind of, is that the sum of all this stuff is greater than the individual parts. So we started to model this and look at service organizations and say, well, if we think about this, what is going on in a service organization? And so can we name and visualize all these independent elements that are interacting? And in a service organization, it's our employees. It's our employees interacting with systems and technology and knowledge. It's interacting with our customers. It's interacting across the company. So how are we interacting with our software development or our manufacturing facilities, with our human resources department, all of the different elements that take place. And when we think about that system, it's easy to understand how we can't actually control it, because we can't control the thousands of interactions that are taking place and the thousands of discussions that might take place within a given period of time. But if we can at least name these major elements that are interacting and define what we know about them, that then allows us to say, okay, now how do we manage those elements and what are the things we can do with those elements? And as those elements interact, we start to see patterns of influence take place. So what are the beneficial outcomes that we're seeing, and what are the things that are maybe a liability to achieving our outcomes? So as these elements are interacting, we start to see patterns emerge. And are these patterns that we like? Are these patterns we don't like? And can we identify these emergent patterns? What are the new dominant patterns that we're starting to see? And what are some of the diminished or eradicated patterns that we're starting to see? So are we seeing customers using more and more self-service? Are we seeing a pattern that we're actually starting to see erosion in our customer satisfaction or our net promoter or our customer effort scores because there's some interaction taking place? Maybe we change something in one of our systems that now is making it harder for people to interact, and that is now leading to customer dissatisfaction. So can we name these emergent patterns we're seeing in our service organizations? And those patterns influence future interactions. And can we identify what are the internal influences? What are the internal things that are going to start impacting our independent elements? And maybe what are the external elements that we have a little bit less control over that are going to start impacting? The pandemic was a massive external influence on our systems that made us adapt and change and rethink a lot of things within our business models. So we use this now as a bit of a map to say, okay, can we identify these different things? Can we actually write down and fill out all the kind of 4 different quadrants of this? And it's a sense and respond model. We love the Cynefin framework or the Cynefin model as a sense and respond model. This is a sense and respond model, similar to a double loop model, but it allows you to think about your organizations in a way that you can adapt and change and correct as you move forward. And as leaders in this adaptive organization, we have to make sure that we are being very clear and setting the vision for those desired emergent patterns. And we can think of that about more the why and the what. Why are we doing what we're doing and what are we trying to achieve? Not how specifically do you achieve it, but why and what are we trying to achieve? That means everybody has to have a common understanding of our top level objectives, our top level priorities. They need to understand the desired outcome of the entire system. What is it we're actually trying to achieve as a group of people? And how do I fit into that? So as an individual, what is my purpose within this ecosystem? So how am I impacting the top level goals? We love Daniel Pink. And when we think about autonomy and purpose, adaptive systems really tap into allowing me to understand the purpose that I have in the company and giving me autonomy and how I maybe interact with other people to deliver against those desired emergent patterns. Leaders also help define the guardrails of interaction. So what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. We often talk about the culture of a company. So what are the cultural norms that you have to live within? What are the guidelines for interaction, both with your peers and external to the company, so it's not a free-for-all? And being very clear on areas that maybe are very much task-oriented or are not changeable, thinking about like compliance, government regulations, the healthcare industry, the finance industries, right? They have a lot of things where creativity is really not something you want. You really do want it to be a checkbox. So being clear on all these things. So leaders help set this framework. But we still see people thinking about and pulling a lot of our practices from the Industrial Revolution, where there's direct cause and effect. If I have a bunch of materials, so I have a bunch of people and systems and tools, if I put a bunch of checklists and processes in place, I'm going to get a great product out the other end. This works fantastic in a manufacturing line. Does not work so great when you're in a knowledge-centric, emergent environment, because the checklists and processes you put in place are already outdated by the time people absorb them, because the inputs and the influences have already started to change the way that things work. So this shifting that we're seeing and the automation that we've seen throughout history is really impacting now as we maybe start to move into a new economic and a new frontier of the skills and resources that we're going to need moving forward. And if we think about the Industrial Revolution, right, it was kind of the physical economy, started in the 1760s, 1750, depending on what history books you read. But the strength-based economy was the old school manufacturing, mining, farming. This is what our economy was based on. And then machines and automation started to change that economy. We didn't need the same skills for manufacturing. We didn't need the same skills for mining and farming. Agriculture today, far less people are doing agriculture today than at any point in history, because we have machines that do a lot of the agriculture. So the machines and automation have led to the kind of main economy that we're in today, which is this thinking economy or this analytic-based economy. Science, technology, math, white collar, in-office work, really knowledge dominant work. So we have to have good analytic skills. We have to problem solve. We have to be developers. We have to very much knowledge organized work. But artificial intelligence is starting to have a dramatic impact on that work. And in the academic world, there is quite a bit of work being done and papers coming out now that are starting to show that we're moving into the next great economy, which a couple of the professors that the consortium knows and works with, they've coined it the feeling economy, whether you think of it as a feeling economy or emotional intelligence-based economy or relationship-based economy. But the skills that we're going to need in the future are going to be less around the science, technology, and math, and more around healthcare, personal care and services, management, community, social. So we're moving into this next great economy, and artificial intelligence is what's fueling that, because it's automating a lot of the analytic-based work that the majority of people we have today are doing. So in this physical economy, counting things, command and control, really determined the contribution of the value of what somebody was doing. If I needed more of these things to come out the end of my manufacturing line, I could find efficiencies, I could change certain processes, right? And I could understand that command and control drove what was, value and contribution coming out the end of my manufacturing line. We've really, we have held on to those command and control and counting tasks because it's easy. And in services with the tools we have, we count everything. But a lot of the leaders that we work with, they recognize that counting these tasks does not equal value creation. So in a tech support environment, we count how many cases somebody is taking. We may even goal somebody on how many tickets or incidents they close a week with our customers. That doesn't mean they're doing a good job. It doesn't mean they're delivering value to the customer. It just means that they're closing a task. And a lot of service executives recognize that counting those things doesn't actually equate to retention rates, growing revenues, but they're things that are easy. And we've held on to that command and control. There's a whole other body of work that we're kind of thinking about to maybe explain why that takes place. But now as we're moving into this potential relationship-based economy, when the easy to control and count tasks are handled by machines, the way we understand value creation has to change. So we have to start thinking differently about our organizations, about what value creation is, about what contribution looks like. And we're also not very good at predicting the future. When we think about predicting the change and the changes we've been through, we know the path we've been on and we know where we are today. But as we go out in time, knowing where we're going gets fuzzier and fuzzier. Going out 6 months, we're pretty good at saying, I know what the influential patterns are going to be in 6 months. I know what my organization is going to look like and feel like in 6 months. I probably know what it's going to look like a year out, but we may have a couple bad quarters. And if we have a couple bad quarters, I may have some, there might be a replan and my budget gets a little smaller, or, some minor impacts. When we go out 2 years, it gets fuzzier and fuzzier. 3 years, I don't know anybody that's ever put together a 3 to 5 year business plan. And then when they get to year 5, they're exactly on what their business plan was. As you go out further and further, there's too many variables that impact where we're going. But within those variables, if we go back to thinking about our organizations as complex adaptive systems, any of those variables we can manage and we can change and we can grow and we can shrink. We can think about all the different elements of interaction we have and kind of deliver on the value and the services and the promises we're making to our customers. Why we are starting to say the relationships that we have are going to be the big differentiator is, again, back to this idea that artificial intelligence is probably going to be one of the biggest pattern influencers we see in services in the coming months, years. I don't know if it's 6 months. I don't know if it's a year. I don't know if it's 2 years. But we're already seeing massive changes based on artificial intelligence. And the generative AI stuff that people are doing, I think, is absolutely going to be a game changer for services. We already have member companies that have put systems in place to test having generative AI build their knowledge articles, mine their databases to create new manuals. So they're already testing with how do we take the information we have and how do we have generative AI start to actually create the knowledge and create the materials, and where does that fit into with having our humans work? So we're seeing these impacts already, and it's all predicted to accelerate. I mean, there's no going back at this point. I am sure governments will start putting more rules and regulations in place that will at least maybe help us manage the dangers that come with some of these things. But it's here, and we know it's going to impact us. So as the AI and the technologies become ubiquitous, kind of the same way that a self-service site is ubiquitous today across companies, the way humans interact are going to be the big pattern influencers. So it's not going to be putting a new tool in place. It's going to be how humans interact, human relationships that are going to be the big differentiator. So we think about kind of three big variables, three big elements that are in our adaptive systems. We have our customers, right? The people using and leveraging our products and services to complete whatever job they have to complete. We have all of our employees, so the people executing tasks to deliver against the products and services of the business, and the business itself. But one of the problems that this kind of brings to the forefront for me is we often talk about the business like it's an actual thing. Like the business is an entity, the same way that our employees are an entity or our customers are an entity, but the business itself really isn't an entity. We're made up of organizations. So our employees are made up of organizations, whether it's our sales organization, services, finance, research and development, human resources, right? These organizations are made up, make up our companies. And our customers are made up of people that are worried about security, the users of our products, procurement offices, IT, the same as our companies. And then the business are things like our revenue, our margin, our growth rates, our stock. But the business itself isn't an entity. The business itself is defined by the employees within a company. The elements of interaction between the employee and the customer are what drive the business outcomes. So business outcomes are lagging indicators. So our revenue is a lagging indicator of internally to our company as our sales team and our marketing team interacting and working well together to market and sell our products. Is our sales team working well with employees at a customer to sell the product? If they are, our revenue is going to grow. If they aren't, our revenue may not grow. We may not hit our revenue targets. Within this system, it's people that are setting the limits of the system. I've never met somebody yet who has an unlimited budget to do whatever they want and have no limits on anything. But those limits are set by your CEO, chief financial officer sitting in a room going, okay, well, if we think our revenue is this and we want this margin, here's what the budgets look like. So it's people that are setting all these limitations. It's not some mythical business entity. It's humans that are interacting within a system to set these limits on what we can do. So if we start to think about the business as a lagging indicator, as leaders in an organization, we're the ones that are going to influence these interactions between all of the people elements. And so we're the ones that are setting how our people should interact with each other, how our people should interact with our customers. We should support our organizations with greater investment in people development and people's careers, investing in the internal and external experiences. So what is it that's going to make our interactions easier with our customers? How are we going to set the right tone for how we want our people to act with our customers? So supporting our organization, thinking about investment in our people and the experience of our people really is going to be what can differentiate us from everybody else in the industry. And leaders are clearly define the limitations of the system, like I talked about. What are the budgets and the resources? And making sure we're communicating those out clearly so everybody has an understanding of the budgets and the resources. When we were in Hanover and Kai was hosting us for an event, there was a lot of discussion in the room about people didn't understand the decisions that were being made about, well, why are we funding this project versus this project? And being clear on that we aren't unlimited and we have to make these decisions will line people up to adapting in our system and adapting in our organizations. Like I said, this is I'd say an emerging body of work that the consortium is looking at, and how do we think about these adaptive systems? Over the next 6 to 9 months, we'll be releasing some kind of white papers on examples of how member companies are starting to look at their organizations as adaptive structures, and what are the elements and examples of how they've mapped all those things out. So I think this is going to be an exciting body of things that will help us prepare for and continue to be very adaptive organizations and services to all these environmental impacts that we're starting to see and accelerate based on automation, based on machines, and based on the changing world that we're in.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for giving us these insights. I don't know if you noticed, but I was nodding all the time. It's not due to my age, but since I've seen this already, and I've seen this, or parts of this, I've seen this already. So it's always amazes me that I see new details or think about new things when you present all these different stuff. So this thinking in dynamic systems, looking for the patterns, and not this linear versus reflective thinking. What we see with our double loop models, or with the reflective models, is always amazing. So since we are a small group, I would like to hand it over to our participants. Just unmute yourself and give feedback or ask questions or make comments, whatever you like. Go for it.
And I'll send these slides to Kai so he can,
you
can use them. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, may I begin? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, hello to you. Thank you very much for your presentation and for the content. I'm want to make a remark, particularly. I think your presentation and your explanations are strongly influenced by the type of service being a support or maintenance service. So what you should make, to my opinion, a bit clearer. I have maybe missed the beginning where, because if we look at professional services or if we look at managed services, I think an element or your presentation might change. So from my side, I could suggest on your variable list, you could add the service type, because if it's a support service or if it's a managed service, that will also change the picture and the adaptation of the organization. Yeah, so that would be my remark. I hope it's understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're correct that the majority of the member companies we work with and the executives we talk with are running support and services organizations.
Yeah.
And while I would argue that every organization should be thought of as an adaptive organization, the elements and the variables and the interactions absolutely are different depending on if you're in sales or professional services. And you're right. So that's a very good point.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
I was a little bit late. Sorry for that, Matt. I was stuck in a call with a customer. The end was already impressive, and I'm a little bit ashamed that I missed the first part. I'm very much in the people business, and at the end, you mentioned people interact with each other and customers. What I recognize is, especially in Germany, especially machine building companies, they spend a lot of money in AI. Or any kind of digitalization, and they miss out to strengthen their people. And what you said, if we really believe that people make a difference, why do they spend just money for another digital project and another digital project and another digital tool and not bringing up the people? Because the gap is getting bigger and bigger. Well, what are your, what can you see in the industry?
I completely agree. I think there's we call it the shiny object syndrome. I don't know if that translates well, but it's, we're always, here's something new and shiny. Let me go invest in that. And, but why are we investing in it? What's the purpose? At the very beginning, I talked about purpose-driven outcomes based on AI. So AI is a great tool, but what are you actually trying to accomplish with it? And in that, and as those things become more ubiquitous, and they will, it's still people at the end of the day that are interacting and talking to each other that are the big differentiators. And people do get lost, I think, sometimes, because investing in people isn't a shiny object. And so I do think that sometimes we underestimate the value of investing in our people, their jobs, their careers, their interactions. So we see that everywhere we go.
Mm-hmm. Thank
and
you.
I think, and I see the same, and I experience the same thing. From my experience or from my perspective, it is, like you said, it's not that shiny. Investing in people is not that shiny, like in a new tool and a new algorithm and a new function, whatever. And from the leadership perspective, I see that many people in organizations, being project leads or managers or team leads, whatever, that they are not able to see or are not knowing how to start these soft skill projects, because it seems so fuzzy and not so easy to touch. But IT, technology, shiny things, this is easier to handle and easier to implement and easier to prospect and to think, oh yes, we invest this and we make waterfall plans and we make project plans and we make timetables, and so everything is linear. Yeah, it's linear. It's easy to plan and easy to follow. But the other things are, like you said, reflexive and circular, and that makes it so difficult to plan and to run these projects. Again, perspective from system thinking.
Yeah, but it seems that there is hope at the horizon, as Matt explained. What I also observe is that companies are adding personal development resources in being a bit more dedicated to the service profession or to the service organization of their companies, so that there is more focus on the personnel development and not generalists being personal developers for everyone, which I think is very necessary if service organizations become reasonably big. Yeah, and so there are special training programs, like I observe here in my neighborhood, trainee programs dedicated to younger service people, yeah, which where they get a broader profile or broader training, rather than just the technical things on the machines or the devices.
The T-shape again.
T-shape people.
Yeah, sure. Necessary.
And I would say, and I don't have any numbers to back this up, that we're hearing more about companies putting coaching programs in place. So more, not just executive coaching programs or new hire mentor type programs, but ongoing coaching and relationship based programs, which I'm hoping we continue to see that trend and people investing in people.
Yeah. And we see this success we have within the KCS framework, for instance, now where the coaching aspect is so system immanent. We say, without this coaching, correct me if I'm wrong, in the history of the consortium and the KCS development, we see very little companies who actually have success without a coaching program.
Yes, we like to say we've never seen a very successful one without a coaching program. We've seen successful ones. We've never seen a really efficient KCS implementation without a solid coaching program.
True.
Have you ever seen any IT implementation without a successful coaching? I haven't. I have seen so many CRM or other system implementations which got lost in the space because there was the link between a fantastic system and the real world was not there. And I see it every day in companies. There is a provider of a nice tool, and yeah, we can do a lot with it. But if there is no link, and that's coaching or whatever you want to call it, they got lost. Yeah. If it's a planning tool for service technicians or anything, if there is not the link, the coaching to the people in real life, it will get lost.
But we turn the tool on. Why isn't everybody doing what we want? We turned the tool on yesterday. We were expecting everything to work, right? It doesn't happen.
Yeah, but the expectation is like this. I was for 5 years head of a company providing trainings, and we have customers. They want that they send their people. They stuck in a plug, and you upload a software, which makes them service more orientated or dialogue orientated. and 2 days later you take off the plug, and they come home, and the leaders are happy because you have made a software update.
Peter, you should start with the CEOs to make the plug there before you send their people. Before you train their people.
Some of them have not a clue about service. I have spoken this morning to somebody.
Sure. That's what I meant.
Yeah, the CEO is happy not seeing the service manager, because if he does not hear anything from the service manager, everything is fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, no news is good news.
But
Exactly.
what is your opinion, Matt, on the influence of what you have explained, the growing importance of AI or AI techniques? In relation to this, Peter, from Peter's cited people development side. I think the AI would not change the people development side neither. So that's just another technique added into the IT systems or into the automation system, not into the personal system.
I mean, the hope is that we get better at using machines and AI to take away the repetitive tasks, so our people can do creative, interesting work, right? That's the hope. We see some people doing things that are maybe the opposite. We had a discussion with a company where their great achievement with AI was to track how long it took somebody to type an email. I was like, that's really how you're using AI? Is to how long it takes somebody to create an email. So I wouldn't say it's all for good, but
Interesting.
So, like we say, hope dies last, and we've seen in the time frame. I'm in this vertical in services industries. I see this as a repetitive pattern again, that we talk about the importance of looking at soft skills and trying to balance it, then the shiny new things that Matt mentioned with the soft skills of the people, and to how to invest and how much to invest to make sure that the productivity gain that we expect from these projects, that they actually really emerge. But over time, what I don't see is, and I don't want to be taken too pessimistic here, what I haven't seen so far, let me put it this way, what I haven't seen so far is that we are good at quantifying the impact of the soft skills. And that's why in so many cases we invest on the easy parts, the technology, the shiny new things, but we forget or we underestimate the importance of the soft skills and the coaching and all this other stuff.
It's so difficult to measure. Yeah, if you think of also older developments to put competence balance sheets or kind of things to make competence of the company also measurable in balance sheets, I think it has not improved, or it has not really evolved. All these old, let's say, approaches.
That it's difficult to measure is a good explanation, but it shouldn't be a good excuse.
I think one of the, especially in economic, right, chaotic times, when people start talking about we need efficiency gains, the first thing they start cutting is investment in people. And it's like really difficult to convince them that investing in your people gives you efficiency gains versus, well, if we put this new tool in place, we can save this amount of time or this amount of time, right? So it's very hard to measure. But investing in your people rarely, right, is not an efficiency gain, retention, cost less because you don't have to hire new people, all of those things, right? So
absolutely.
And one major problem I see, Matt, is that within service, there's a lot of, I had to look it up in German, it's Blindleistung, I think reactive power. So people spend a lot of effort to solve a problem, to support a customer, and the management doesn't have a clue what in the background is needed, not only in the service department, also in other departments. And like if we would have a proper knowledge management, we would have handled tasks much easier. If we strengthen the people in social skills, we would handle tasks much easier. The problem is, like Mr. Trucker said, in the last century, you can't control people working with their head. And some people try to control and look into the head of service people. And taking AI to control service people is really something which makes me mad. We have
Yeah.
to provide knowledge. We have to provide skills and strengthen them. For me, service would one measurement would be a positive Friday balance. Yeah, and if I talk to people, their Friday balance is, oh God, it's Friday, and I hate looking towards Monday, and don't come and try to control them. Yeah, we have to make their life easier with all tools and ideas we have. There is a lot in the market, but management still is looking for cutting heads instead of strengthen heads. And in Germany makes me mad that we discuss about Fachkräftemangel. You have heard this word? Yeah.
I have not.
Kai, help me. What is Fachkräftemangel?
Lack of resources. Lack of skilled
Yeah,
resources.
lack of skilled resources. Okay.
Yeah. Instead of looking on how we use our resources. Yeah, we waste a lot of critical resources and how to use them instead of trying to even make the number of people smaller. So, Matt, for me, it was a pleasure hearing your points, looking afterwards in the sheets for the part I missed. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll send those to Kai later today. So you should, I'll make sure I get those off to you today.
And we have the recording. Thanks again, Matt, for being our guest and giving us the insights. Thanks to all the participants. Some of you, I guess, I will see in a couple of minutes in our member meeting. So see you soon. Thanks again.
And Kai has all my contact information if anybody wants to reach out, questions or anything else.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt.
Will do.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Perfect meeting. Ciao.